The opinions expressed on the X and Y Show are the sole opinions of the host. Please note, there is no intentional desire to offend any member of the listening audience. With that said, if you still feel offended, tough shit.
It's time for the X and Y Show with your host, Mr. Roosevelt. He talks about man topics, lady topics, and relationships. He talks about love, sex, and infidelities. He even gives good tips. There is no other show that compares to the X and Y Show.
Oh yeah. Sit back, take your clothes off, and relax. It's time for the X and Y Show, where real relationship issues are talked about and addressed. The only place on the planet that tackles the topics that everyone wants to talk about, but no one is brave enough to address. Nothing escapes X and Y, baby. Now, here's your host, Roosevelt Colbert.
And greetings. Welcome to another segment of the XY Show. I'm your host, Roosevelt. And I want to wish all the fathers out there happy Father's Day. This is a special episode. Well, I'll talk about Father's Day, and what Father's Day meant to me over the years. And so, this episode, it's still going to be a regular episode, but it's just like I did for Mother's Day, I think that, when people say Happy Father's Day, it is a little different than when they say Happy Mother's Day. At least that's how I feel. I think that fathers, they don't get the credit that they deserve. And, I don't want to sound like here we go, and, fathers not getting the mothers the same credit as mothers. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I think that fathers should definitely get more credit than they do. Everybody like Happy Father's Day, they give them an ugly ass tie and some cheap ass cologne, and Happy Father's Day. Yeah, get out of my face. It's not like Happy Mother's Day. It's not the same. Fathers get the raw end of the deal. And, and that's including myself. When I grew up, Happy Father's Day, I would buy my father little gifts and here and there. He liked English leather. Now, for those you old heads, English leather was big back in the day. It was like, before all the fancy colognes came out, all the old timers wore English leather and Brute and Old Spice. Old Spice really not that bad. Shit. But so I would always buy him this kit, the English leather. He loved that cheap shit. I don't, like I said, he was back in the day, so he loved that. So I would buy him a aftershave with English leather and cologne and the soap bar, and that was his Father's Day gift. But even growing up, I never told my father, how I appreciate him staying around. And I know a lot of you saying like, well, that's what he's supposed to do. Well, a lot of them don't stay around, voluntarily or involuntarily. The mother and the father don't get along anymore, so they get a divorce and have to leave. And still the real fathers have a presence in their children's lives. They stay in the same town, and son, you ever need help, I'm here, or come spend time with me every weekend. they're still in their daughters' lives, going to gymnastics class and take them to the ballet and, whatever. They still have a presence in their children's life, even though they're not in the household. So I think that I regret it to this day. I never told him thank you for staying around, and being there for me. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not married today, because I don't want to just fuck. I mean, I could have had many kids all around the place: Alaska, Atlanta, Philly, Miami. I could have had kids in a lot of places, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have all these kids everywhere and growing up in society without a father. I would have sent a check, but that ain't shit. And I'm not down in the fathers that are sending checks. And some of you have very unique situations. Maybe your ex is not allowing you to have a presence in the child's life, and so you send a financial check to help out or your child support. And at the meantime, that's all you can do. I'm not talking about you guys. I'm not talking about the men who actually want to be in their children's lives but can't or not allowed to. That's different. That's a whole different situation. I'm talking about the deadbeat dads who don't, the woman have split up, him and the woman have split up, and they're taking it out on the children, making her suffer. They're not sending money or anything, helping out with the children, and so their kids are suffering. In addition to the kids are growing up without that father presence. And that's very important. I think that's why society is so fucked up right now as it is, especially in the black community. I'll go ahead and say that. I know a lot of you won't like that, but I don't give a fuck. Especially in the black community, there is an absence of fathers. And I think that, and I'm not saying that just because you have your father in your household that you're guaranteed to grow up in this perfect house, this Cosby-like atmosphere, and you're going to be good. That's not what I'm saying. There's some people who had two people in the household, a mother and father, and still was fucked up. What I am saying is the chances that you're having a better take on at life is much greater if you have that father in the house. And that's what so many households are missing in today's society. That's why society is so fucked up. You have all these shootings because all these kids that grew up without fathers, they grow up fucked up as kids, and they grow up fucked up as adults. So you got all this shit brewing, in our society, shootings and people having trouble with relationships because they haven't seen the love or how it's supposed to go with a two-parent household. All they know is a single parent household. They don't know the importance of a true family, a complete family. So, they don't mind having kids all over the place because they never had a father. So why should they give a fuck? That's important. The presence of a father in the household is very important. And that's something that I regret to this day. I never told I told, of course I told him I love him, but I never told him, like, thank you for staying around. Thank you for being there for me and allowing me to be the man that I've become. And like I said before, that's one of the reasons why I haven't had kids or, anywhere, because I want to wait till I get married. and provide that child with a father in the household like, I was given. I think that's very important to me. And if I can't have it that way, then I don't want it. So, I think that, I just want to say, it's Father's Day. And a lot of times people get caught up in the words, Happy Father's Day, but they don't, go deeper than that. You should tell that man, if you're blessed to have your father still around, don't make the same mistake I did. It's not because I was doing it intentional. It's because, I just, it's something that we don't think about doing, or at least I didn't. It's something that you take for granted, like they'll always be there, they'll always be there. And, you just live life and you just go through life and you just don't think to tell them. You just don't think to tell them. So for those of you who are blessed enough to still have your father with you, or even your grandfather, strong men influences in your life. An uncle. You need to tell them while you can. Don't expect for them, he knows. He knows how I feel. Don't expect them. And even if they do know how you feel, it's good to hear. Thank you, Daddy, for always being there. Thank you, Daddy, for staying there. Thank you for providing me a complete family structure. I appreciate that, and I love you. Now, I told my father I loved him, but I never told him that I appreciate him being there and doing fatherly things with me. When I know, looking back, after he do a double shift and he's coming home and getting ready to take me to the skating ring or the movie, looking back, I know he was tired as hell. I know he was. But, he still did his fatherly duties. He took me out and did little things with me and father-son things, and he took me to get a haircut. And, so it's hard, when they do leave. You regret it. That you never got the opportunity to tell them, thank you. You say the words, but you never elaborated. You never told them how you really appreciate them staying around and providing you with that complete family structure. Something that I will leave, and go to the end of my days with. I will not do that intentionally to any children. Have a family and have kids all around the place and not providing them with that family structure. I want to be there. I want to be there in the house with my family, growing up with them, helping them get through life. That's very important. I think about the times, the last time I seen my father when I moved to Alaska the second time, and I felt weird leaving. He was laying in the bed, and I felt weird leaving. And my mom actually, she said I probably shouldn't go back. And, but, at that time I took a position that was, was a good position. And, I was just wanting to get back to work. So, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking he'd be okay. And, I'll see him when I get back for Christmas or something. So I went back to Alaska. And I think I went there in March or April, somewhere around there. So one time in July, my mom called and he was saying my dad was acting real funny and he wasn't saying much. And long story short, that later that night he passed. And I knew when she called, I knew, she was calling me that time of night. I knew what it was. I just had a bad feeling, but I was just hoping maybe, we just had to call the ambulance and your dad had to go to the hospital. I was just hoping that it was something like that, or we had to call the ambulance. They came here. Your dad's okay now, but we just wanted to let you know. I was just hoping it was something like that, not the worst, but it was the worst. He passed, and that really bothered me till this day. Actually, it was nothing I could do. I was in Alaska. He's in Miami. So I was so far away. There was nothing I could do. And that's one of the reasons why I came back to Miami, for a little while before, I'm still in Florida, but, I'm not in Miami. But I wanted to be closer to my mother because I didn't want that to happen again. If that happens again with my mom, I can get in my car. I can be home in a couple of hours. I'm not 5,000 miles away. But, when that happened, when the news happened, I was just, the only thing I could think about, then it hit me like all the things that I didn't tell my daddy, all the things that I didn't let him know that I appreciate, those things hit then, at that moment. But, of course it was too late. I couldn't call him anymore. I couldn't email him anymore. Couldn't text him anymore. It was too late for me to tell him, thank you. So, I just want you to remember that. And the next time you say Happy Father's Day, remember what Father's Day mean. Remember what sacrifices your father, and I'm sure all of them made some type of sacrifice. Remember what they did to actually provide for you and ensure that you grew up the best way possible. And I'm not saying that every household was peachy. There was always some problems too that every household goes through. Everyone does. That's life. But for the most part, I think the next time that you experience a Father's Day, you should make sure that that man knows how much you appreciate him, how much you really appreciate him staying around and being the lion of your family, the leader of your family, and making you a better man or a better woman that you are as an adult. If you are lucky enough to still have your father around, and you're listening to this, as soon as I sign off, you call your father and say, Daddy, Pop, dad, whatever you call him. I call mine daddy. You let him know that you appreciate him staying around. That you appreciate him being the man that he is. You appreciate him being the man that he is and making you the man or woman that you are. That's what Happy Father's Day is all about. Showing gratitude to the strongest man in our lives. It's not about cheap cologne. It's not about ugly ass ties. It's not about new shoes. And it's not about dolphin tickets. It's about sheer gratitude. Anyway, I just wanted to rap to you a little bit on this Father's Day. And like I said, if you're blessed enough to have your father still around, you make sure he knows that every day, not just Father's Day, but every day. If you're having problems with your father, rectify them. You might not have all of the story. I have a cousin that way, and, she had a father, they had problems, and then, he passed, and then, my daddy. It's too late. It's too late. He can't hear you. Don't let that happen to you. Let that man know, the strongest man in your life. Let him know how much you appreciate him. Let him know how much you're thankful for him. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers and all the strong men out there. I'll see you next week. Thanks.
You've been listening to The X and Y Show with your host, Oosevelt Colbert, the place where real relationship issues are talked about and addressed. Join us next time. You can now put your clothes back on. Or not.